Hi, hello, how are you? That's right, ladies and gentlemen. That Rockwell timepiece says it's time, so come on in. Stay a while. It's time to get coached up with another edition of the Coach Scott Field Show. Rockwell is a proud partner of the Coach Scott Field Show, and I'm a proud brand ambassador. If you go to rockwelltime.com, use the code COACH20, you will receive 20% off of any item there on that website. Like and follow the Coach Scott Field Show on our Facebook page. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, Coach Marci and I say turn that knob up. We're about to put that flavor in your ear. Watch us on DBTV Monday through Fridays, where we have an opportunity to be seen in over 300 million households around the globe. We appreciate your support. Also on Wednesdays on CSTV and also the Rewind Sports 60. Sure appreciate your support with all those platforms. I would be remiss if I didn't send a quick shout out to a friend who our broadcasting world just lost. Friend, mentor, and supporter of the Coach Scott Field Show, former ESPN executive Barry Sachs passed away this week. We send our heartfelt condolences to he and his family, as he has touched many of lives in his 30-year career at ESPN. But with that said, how excited am I to have Coach Marci Grayer of Salt Lake Community College join us on the show today. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
You know what? Blessed, humbled, excited for the things you've got going on out there in Bruin country.
Yes, yes, for sure.
We got a local feel today. So we've known each other through years, and I've actually been able to follow your progress the last several years. I've been a fan from afar, but really enjoy the program that you have built there with Salt Lake Community College.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's been a fun ride for sure.
So let's get into that, Coach. Where did the passion for you for basketball begin? Were you a multiple sports star through high school? And kind of give the fans and viewers of the show a little bit of your background and where you grew up and where that passion came from.
Yeah, so I'm from out here, as you know. I'm from the West Jordan area, and basketball came into my life because my mom was a coach. So I would go to the practices when I was super young, trying to race the players during their down and backs, that kind of thing, watching practice, always in the gym. So that's where I got my love for the game, just watching my mom. And my mom actually, she played at Washington State. So she was a big time player there. So basketball's kind of always been in the family. Then through that growing up, my dad was a track star. So that's how I then got into track as well. So I did both of those. And then in high school, I did those two. And then I started cross country to get me in shape for basketball. So I ended up doing, the three sports during high school. And, from there, then I move on and I actually attended Salt Lake Community. I was an athlete here under Coach Specketer. And she's a phenomenal, phenomenal woman. And from there, I kind of knew like I wanted to coach, and from that I always coached like littler programs. Like even when I was in high school, I coached like little AAU teams or different things like that. So I've always loved the game, the IQ part of the game. But then being here at Slick and playing here and playing underneath her, I really started to really love the game from a coach's side of things. And that's when I kind of knew like, I think I could do this, at the college level. So during my time at Salt Lake, I was also coached at Copper Hills while I was a player here, and I coached at Highland one of the years. Then once I graduated here, I played at Dixie State. And then once I graduated there, it's crazy because I never really knew the coaching world is all about who you know, right? Like you think that you could just, like any other job, you're just going to apply and get it. But it's really based off who you know because everyone has the people they trust. And that's the biggest thing about coaching with your staff is you get a staff that you trust, because you go through so much together. So I was very fortunate. My coach at the time, Angie Christensen, she was at Dixie when I was there. It's now Utah Tech, I believe. Yeah,
Yes.
she had a friend that was looking for an assistant. So last minute, she reached out to me and was like, hey, my friend needs an assistant. Do you want to apply? So I applied for it. They needed me there the next week. And I was like, oh, I'm there. And that's kind of how I got my foot in the door. with college coaching.
Love that. I truly believe that success in this industry is based early on the relationships that you have to provide you that opportunity. It sounds like you were able to maximize on that. People were aware of who you are, your
Mhm.
work ethic, your character, your loyalty, and those attributes that go to being a good assistant. But now that you're a head coach of your own program, what types of things are you looking for in your assistant coaches with your staff there at Salt Lake Community College?
Yeah, here, I was very blessed when I came back. So I did 1 year in California at the JUCO there, straight out of college. And then Betsy had called me and said the job had opened here. So I applied for it and I came back. And through that time, I really got to see, what it is she needed as an assistant. And then even myself as I'm growing into, my more adulthood areas. And then I got to really see what the trust factor is and the relationship of the bond between the head coach and an assistant coach, and how much being such a loyal and trusting person, you need that, as a head and even as an assistant. And one thing with her is I was very blessed because she allowed me to do a lot. She allowed me to have a voice in the gym. She allowed me to do certain drills. So the girls heard my voice just as much as they heard hers, even though she's the final say. But also, I was her backbone in a sense at the same time. So I kind of got to see how it was to work hand in hand in the relationship that we gained, and we're gonna forever be lifelong friends. She's my mentor, but more so my best friend. And I learned her as like the back of my hand. Like I knew the kind of food she liked from just the meal stuff, being on the road. Like I knew when she was gonna get pissed off, when it was a little bit too much, when we need to jump in there. So just doing that, I think allowed me to know what I needed in an assistant.
Yeah.
Um, and I think until I became a head coach, I didn't really like, she would always tell me, you're extremely valuable. Like I wouldn't have been as successful as I have been without you here. Like you don't know how much easier you've made my life. And during the time I'm like, whatever, like you're the one making the big shots. I'm just here to support you. But now that I'm ahead, I truly see what she means. And it is very, very so important to have a staff that you trust, and at least especially the one sitting right next to you, the one that no matter what happens will always have your back and is always looking out for you, but will also be able to tell you, when they don't agree, and because we all see different things, but it be like good enough to where we can talk about it, but at the end of the day we know, like, whatever I say we're going to do, what my decision is, and we're going to go with it full force. But I think if it wasn't for the position I was in, I wouldn't truly understand what I need as a head coach. So I
Yeah.
do think I was definitely blessed in that area for sure.
I love hearing that because it's so true. I've been blessed to have been a professional head coach for multiple years. And a lot of times I didn't have a pick in who my assistant coaches would
Mhm.
be when I was abroad. I had to kind of utilize who they had there for me. And you had to build that relationship. You had to build that trust. You had to have that connectivity. You wanted to put them in a position to where they could use their skills and strengths and yet have that positive energy always flowing on the court, so that way you put the players in a position to be successful. You've had some positive female mentors in your life. I mean,
Mhm.
the former athletic director out there who was a Hall of Famer, or were those important relationships for you as well, as you saw what you needed to become and as your growth and development in the industry happened? What were those relationships to you, and how did it help you kind of create your personal philosophy and see the strength of those women, and how did that empower you?
Yeah, so with it, number one, as first start off as a kid or as a player, especially in college, you think that what's going on in your world right now is the biggest thing, right? You don't really see the end goal of what even life's about, and as a player under, Coach Speck, she talked so much more about what basketball does for your life, and at that time, you don't really understand it. You're just like, okay,
Yeah.
let's get through practice, that game or whatever, but she's talking bigger than that. And so after got done playing, same with Angie, she was the same way, Coach Christensen, just about the realness of, the outside world and what basketball is teaching us as we go into that. So once I graduated, I kind of got the grasp of, what, like basketball does bring so much more to us of what we need, even in the working society,
That's
than
right.
what we realized at that time. And I wish that at my younger age, I could have took that in more, to really be like, time isn't promised, so what am I doing with my time right now? Instead of thinking like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for practice to be over, or oh my gosh, we have to go in there and do conditioning today. It's like, I get to go run. Think of the people that don't get those things, think of the people that don't get the chance to play and get their school paid for. So now just kind of being that echoing voice of what I heard, I do think that that's huge that I was able to hear those things. And it switched my perspective of why I even coach. And that's really, I feel like my whole passion has always been to help others, and especially to help young ladies become young women, and to value, us as women, and value parts about life. And so I think that all of that has stemmed from my coaching and what I've learned from those coaches. And it's kind of then brought me into where I am now. And then now still coaching under spec too, same thing. I hear the same stuff kind of differently, but now it's hitting home differently, if that makes sense. Now that
Yes.
I've kind of seen the world. And then with Norma, it's been great. She's phenomenal with what she's done in her life and what she's done for, women's sports in general, not only the state of Utah, but just in general. And I didn't know that, as a student. So now coming back in my adult life to be able to coach under spec and then seeing Norma and learn more about her and what she's done for the community, I'm like, wow, like I'm truly blessed to be under some of the best people. And then through that, again, Norma allowed me to get more hands-on in the administrative area. She pulled me in more, allowed me to do more, because one of her biggest things was, she's like, you're the up and coming. She's like, I'm at my fourth quarter, and coach was at too. I'm at my fourth quarter. You're the up and coming. So it's like allowing you to do things. And I think, when I talk to other coaches, they're not allowed to do certain things, right? They haven't been put in positions to be able to learn certain things or to get hands-on. So once I'm hearing that, I'm like, wow, like I've really been placed in great situations to allow me to be where I'm at right now. And if it wasn't, for those people in my life at those times, I know I have the drive to be here, but I think I was definitely given the stage to get here for sure.
See, and I think that's wonderful that you can share that, because to me there are many life lessons that parallels sports and life,
Mm-hmm.
and you've been able to take those life lessons and apply that, but yet also teach that, to the student athletes that you have there at Salt Lake Community College. To you now, I mean, and of course you're going through it day by day, and it's just a grind. But when you look at it and reflect a little bit, what were some of the biggest life lessons that you learned off the court that you try to preach and teach to your student athletes today?
So, I mean, one of the biggest thing is obviously what, at least as a head coach, what I'm trying to show more with our student athletes is to love people that are different, right? Like I think right now, as everyone always says, love defeats hate. That's the only one that will defeat hate. And right now, with how our world is, even more so now, I try to really hound on that at the end of the day, we all have common similarities. We all like same kind of things. We might similar in this, we might similar in that. And just because I come from a different area, or because I'm a different nationality, or I'm a different religion, it's still, we can embrace our differences. And even though that's not what I enjoy or I partake or I like, I can still respect you for that and be like, oh, but I do find this common. And that's really what I've tried to bring, especially with getting a lot more international kids. I want to show the different walks of life, because you'll never really meet them. You'll never really know the different cultures. And some of my kids that come from Mali, they come from backgrounds that us in the US, we could never imagine,
Right.
So for our athletes to be able to hear their stories and see what they've gone through, and then for them also to experience our life and see what we get, I think it's a huge, not only a culture shock, but it's an eye opener, and it's something that we need to start seeing. That's kind of what I base it around, is as far as embracing differences, and realizing it's okay to be different, and you should be, everyone. It would be weird if we were just all the exact same, but
Amen.
it's pretty cool that all around the world we can all like the same thing, as far as basketball even. But then I think too, through sports, it's definitely taught me hard work, dedication. Nothing comes easy. I'm not just gonna get anything handed to me, because again, you got to fight for every win. Or in track, it was more individual, so I got to push myself to get those accolades, things like that. So I do think after playing and moving to the outside world, I think sports teaches you everything you need to be successful. You know, time management, being a team player, being dedicated, being driven, being organized, you know, knowing what you need to get to first to get to this, you know, the work ethic it takes, the drive when you get knocked down, being able to get back up. So those are all things that I try to teach as life lessons to show the girls. And it's hard because I know that sometimes, you know, it just goes over their head, but I just know that
Right.
I'm like, at least I know that once you get a little older, you're going to look back and be like, wow, that's what she was saying. Because that's what I did, you know? And so I just want to continue to pass that along.
I love that. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching the Coach Scott Field Show, and we're honored and humbled to have Coach Marci Grayer here with us, head coach of the Salt Lake Community College, who does a phenomenal job. And I think a lot of times as coaches, there's so much paranoia, there's so much competitiveness going on that we don't have an opportunity to praise other coaches who are coming up through the ranks in the industry. And here's our chance today to give Miss Marci her flowers, because again, I've observed you from afar. I love your high character. I love your work ethic. I love how you've been very driven and very ambitious. And I love how you're taking the diversity of the situation, whether it be culture or religion or ethnicities, and you're allowing your student athletes to learn and grow and develop from each other. And that's kind of what I just heard you kind of sharing. And I think even in the workplace, if we could take the time to sit there to grow and understand each other and have that connection, our relationships are going to be that much more effective, and we'll have a better form of effective communication as we teach through those platforms.
Yeah, I completely agree. And thank you so much for allowing
Uh,
me to be on here and
Oh
talk
no,
with you.
this is so well deserved. I'm saying I've watched you from afar, and I love all the things that you stand for. I love that high character matters to you. I love that you hold players accountable. I love the fact that you're out visible in the community and you're doing things in the community so people see you and build awareness to your brand and to your program. And those are steps that other people misses. And what I also like about you, coach, is you make it about the players. It's not about yourself. And I think a lot of coaches with that ego, they miss that aspect of it where, you know, it's always me. And it's such a turnoff. And players know and feel when you truly care and empathize and have love. And I've heard you use love multiple times here so far.
Yes, no, for sure. And I think, I mean, because I wouldn't be where I am, you know, without the girls. You know, I think that they're kind of my drive. Um, and that's really what I do it for. So that's where I'm at with that. But I do agree full heartedly with you for sure.
So do you feel it was more difficult for you being a strong female to be into this industry? And yes, you made great relationships and it opened up doors for you, but yet you earned that because you did sacrifice and you did take opportunities and you were, you know, kind of growing a philosophy and knew a style of play that you wanted to have. But how important was it for you to learn from those strong females that you are now one of those, if not, you know, the epitome of that?
um, gosh, I mean, with it, I feel like what I said kind of earlier is, you know, I wouldn't be where I am without them. And yes, I know it is my drive, you know, and they helped me get here still in a sense, but it's still what I put into it, right? Because I could have just
That's right.
not, you know, learned certain things or not really wanted to put us step forward to be in certain things. Like one thing I could think of is, you know, I went to Norma about wanting to get into administrative stuff. So she then let me start to do compliance. But maybe so if I wasn't as ambitious, maybe it would have been a little different, you know, if I was kind of
Right.
just sitting back, letting it come to me. Um, so I think that for sure with me being able to come to them about what I want and kind of knowing what it is I want is huge. But I also think it's more so on them of being so open-minded to being like, let me help her do this, or let me, you know, help give her a path or help her mind get here. Because I do think that a lot of the times, especially now, as you know, women in the industry, it's hard with,
Yeah.
and I think they would say flipping it different now, it's like it's harder for men to get women's jobs. They would say that now. I think over this current time, you know, this few couple years, yeah, I think more women have been getting more women jobs. But before that, it was more men than it was women. But I think that it does go to, again, the open-mindedness of the people that are ahead of you helping
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. I
Um,
like that.
and I think with Norma, she was obviously she's a woman and she did a lot for women's sports. So I know she was, pro with helping women. And then obviously I have a strong woman that's my head coach. So it was different in that area. But even thinking now, my AD now, with it being Kevin Dustin, he's been very pro, with helping women's sports and even myself and helping me get to where I want to get to in my goals. So I think it just really comes down to the open-mindedness of wanting to help
Yeah.
and wanting to get people to the next level instead of being so closed off, like, no, I don't think that should happen.
Right.
I think that's the big difference for sure.
I like that. Let's talk about, recently it's been 50 years of Title IX, which provided and opened up doors for women. How do you see it? Because you were under that umbrella in Title IX as an athlete, student athlete, and now getting into coaching and now doing some administrative things. How vital is it that Title IX was in place for you to be able to open those doors and have those opportunities for you?
Yeah, I think, well, one, it's extremely important. It's huge. And as a player, you don't really understand it. You don't really
Yeah.
get it. So I knew more so because my mom played, and she would tell me her stories about when they would be in this rundown bus and the guys would fly and just the different stuff that they didn't get, and I was like, there's no way. And then I see pictures of like her team and then what they got compared to what the guys got. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I can't even imagine that, like, but then it makes me feel like I'm entitled, but then you think of what they had to go through, the people before me to get us to where we are and what we have. And it's still not even close, to where it should
Right.
be. I still think, especially what we've seen with the Final Four stuff, that when I was
Oh,
in different weight rooms, I was just so like, are you kidding me? And we're in 2000s, and it's
right.
still like that. So I definitely think going back to that, and I think even more so, I went to they honored Norma Carr, and it went through the whole thing with her in Title IX and the stuff that she went through, and that even opened my mind even more because you don't know, and even these kids in this generation, this is just all they know, right? So they
Right.
don't
Yep.
really understand the struggles that it took to even get to where we are right now. And I wish that we can help them more understand that, but at that age, you just don't truly get it until you get older and then you look back and you see. But I do
Right.
think that with my mom being an athlete, she kind of pushed it more like, no, it wasn't always like this, like you need to be grateful for what you're getting. And we had to put in all this work for this. But for those that don't really have, moms that really played, in the college sports or played sports, they don't truly know as much.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
and you don't really see it. It's not really advertised, and now that we have social media, now you could see the different weight rooms, which if you think about, I guess even more so in my day, we didn't have Instagram and TikTok.
Right.
So it could have even been way worse then, but it's not being blasted all over social media for everyone to see it.
That's right. And see, when I saw that, I was sitting there thinking to myself, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and yet we throw these women's at student athletes into just like this little convention hall, and
Yeah.
there's like one rack of weights, and you sit there and you have to scratch your head, and all of a sudden you think, okay, I'm grateful for NIL and I'm grateful for opportunities to kind of grow and evolve the game to make it better for everyone, but embrace that so that way we have awareness. Because if it wasn't for social media, we wouldn't even know that that happened. Yeah, we would hear stories or
Yeah.
whispers, but yet that visual effect of seeing that weight room, it's almost something that just infuriates you.
Yeah, that and like the swag bags, because like what you're saying, you can hear it and then be like, oh, I bet it wasn't that bad. Or like you
Yep.
perceive it, in your own way, depending on how you hear it. But then when you really saw that visual, it did. Like
That's right.
I felt like all women all across were like, what the, and
That's
even like
right.
even just general population are like, oh wow, it's that different. Like I know that everyone knows it's gonna be a little different because the men bring in more money as of now. But I think the visual really is what hit home for a lot of people because you can really see the difference. It wasn't even like a one-off, it was just a complete night and day.
Yeah.
So I
And
do
see,
think,
and that's where I kind of I can appreciate social media and
Mhm.
social media platforms. I don't get into the negativity and the cynicism, but I try to look at things so that way I can grow and evolve and become a better version of myself each day. And when those things are out there for us to be able to see and be able to get what the reality is, it's almost like a Rodney King beating in the 90s. You know, if that
Yeah,
had that not been videotaped, we wouldn't know it. Had George Floyd's situation not been videotaped, you know, then again, it would just be whispers. But I'm grateful that the
mhm.
technology is there so that we can evolve, because if we don't have the discussions about it, how will we grow? We'll stay stagnant forever.
Exactly, exactly.
Love that. So, Coach, congratulations to you. You are a mom.
I
T-
am.
tell me how that has changed, maybe not your priorities, but maybe your perspective on how you coach and what that has brought to your repertoire as a coach. Because I've seen photos of you holding that precious baby right out on the court of the prize, and I'm like, you know what? That melted my heart. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie.
No, it's definitely been fun. It's a different, I'm one that I love challenges. I love hitting goals and hitting marks, and it's definitely a challenge, but I love every ounce of it. It's so funny because you hear parents say like you can love someone so much and be so mad at the same time. And I get it, because like if I really need my sleep, all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, just let me sleep. And then look at him, and then he's all smiling. I'm like, oh, it's okay, I could be up, like it's just the craziest thing. But I mean, I love that he can be in the gym with me. I'm
Oh,
very fortunate, especially at Salt Lake Community, that they allow me to bring him. Because in some workforces you can't, in
yeah.
some work facilities it's just too hard. But it's been very inviting here, and I love that he can be in the gym, kind of like how I was with my mom, and just be around. Right now he has 15 moms, so
Don't
so
you
that's
love
fun with
that?
all of them.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
D-
but
Do,
I
do you feel, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
no
do
no
you feel that it kind of brings the team together, because it's almost like that oh effect, and it's like, oh my gosh, look at this precious, I mean, to me, it just warms my heart, because for me, I always had a culture of hard work and intensity, but yet it was always family. I allowed
yeah
players to bring their sons or daughters in, and while we're stretching and warming up and we're pounding and just kind of talking, they were out on the floor with us, stretching and warming up and going through the layup line with us. And I felt like that united us. Do
yeah.
you have that same kind of principle and philosophy?
Yeah, I've always been big on, I always tell our girls that we are a family, and especially even more so now with a lot of international girls, they don't have family in the States. So
Right.
it makes it even more so that like it's like I'm their mom away from mom. And I've always told even my US kids that they know that I'm very like I give tough love, but at the end of the
Yep.
day, I'm here for you no matter what happens, and I'm going to have your back. But I am gonna tell you, when you probably messed up.
Sure.
And I think just having him around and having them see him, I think it puts more in perspective of how precious life is. Because we talk about it all the time. We talk about how time isn't promised, especially with COVID. And then with some of our international kids, they lose some of their family members. They can't just go home and visit them.
Yep.
And then, we get to see that, right? And so then seeing this little child and how he's growing so fast and just showing, just life. And then the time that are we using our time wisely, like, and I always say too, like, we're taking time away from others or other things that we love to do this. So is this truly what I want to do? I'm taking time away from now my newborn son so I can come and coach you guys, or so I can come and do scouting reports, which take forever, which shows that I truly want to do that. So
Yeah.
is this something you guys truly want? Or is it something that, you could maybe live without? And that's what I try to at least try to preach with it. But I do think having him there just shows more so you can kind of touch it of just how precious time is and life is for sure.
In your perfect world, coach, what do you hope your son emulates from you? What do you hope he takes away from just being in that atmosphere, being in that arena, being in that environment, seeing mom work hard every day? What do you hope that that is instilled in him innately?
Well, first and foremost, obviously love for people. I do want him to see that and be like, if that's one thing you think about me, it's just that I just had so much love to give. But on top of that, obviously my determination, my work ethic, my failure to, I mean, my like there is no failure to me, even if I get knocked down, as long as I get back up, I'm not failing. So it's really just the work ethic I want him to get, and the grit, to know that just because it gets a little hard doesn't mean we just stop. But then also spreading the love at the same time, that it's so much bigger, than just us. That's probably what I'd hope, at least.
I I love that because Coach, what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing, you are a leader with action, and you are a person of servant. You have a servant heart, and I think those are soft skills that you pick up, but yet it's part of the DNA of who you are. I
Mhm.
mean, correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's definitely spot on.
I love that. So, I mean, here we are. What's big picture for you? Are you hoping to, be a lifer at Salt Lake Community College? Are you open to maybe going on to, I mean, because if I'm an athletic director and I'm seeing what Coach Marci's doing at Salt Lake Community College, you're the type of person I would hire in a New York second to lead my program. Are you hoping that those opportunities are out there for you? Or is this something where you're like, you know what? This was a part of my foundation. This is, part of my growth and development. Could you see yourself there for 25, 30 years and being contently happy, raising your family, and this being roots for you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like just Salt Lake in general and what it stands for, it'd be easy to be a lifer here, just for what the whole school stands for, what our president stands for, how the administration is, what we get here, the help that we get here in athletics. It would be easy just to stay here, and be a lifer. But I do think, I do want to get out. I'm from here, eventually I want to leave. I'm not in a rush to leave. I
Right.
always say I feel like everything happens for a reason and for at the right timing. So it's more so, if it's meant for me, I feel like it's going to come and I'm going to know it and I'm going to be like, this is going to be great. But if it's not something I'm like pushing for. Cause I know as
Yeah.
coaches, some of us, we get wrapped up in the level we want to get to, right? Like, so we're jumping here because we have aspirations of, being NBA, being professional or going D1. And for me, it's never really been that, and I was coaching with Betsy, I valued my time with her. So it's more the relationship we had. I knew I wanted to see her out for sure. And then going to the Final Four and hearing just how dog eat dog and just people just crawl on top of each other. I'm like, that's not a life for me.
Yeah, right.
So I really valued it here. And then when I got the head job here, obviously I'm a Bruin through and through. So I wanted to take that on. But I do think, eventually if it's the right spot, I will go. I just right now, my passion is to help change lives and touch lives. And at the JUCO level, I'm able to do that more consistently because every year it's a new team, it's a new flow. But now with the D1 level and everyone just transferring like that, it's the same thing up there.
It's so true, so true. But
Yeah.
I love that foresight that you have because you have a bigger picture, you have a vision, you have a mission that you're on, and yet you're impacting lives at every level that you've been at. And I think that's something that too much it's too much about wins and losses when it's more about what is the impact that I have on these players. Because think about it, you were a player, you're now into coaching, you're able to pass on that torch, and you're going to have a coaching tree of your own that you're going to be so proud of. And that's another reason why I love social media, because I've coached around the globe and now I see their children growing. I see them getting into coaching. I see them being athletic directors or general managers at the professional level. And there's nothing more gratifying to know that maybe you impacted a life in a positive way to help them be an impact in their communities.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think that's my biggest goal, is I just, even if it's just one thing, I just want to be able to impact or them look back and be like, oh wow, like now I get that, or maybe like if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have thought of this or certain things like that. I just want to impact anywhere that I can, whether that's male or female. Because I am now the assistant athletic director here. So I'm working with more of the sports and I'm learning more about some of the sports that I didn't know anything about baseball and softball or even soccer because I was a track athlete. And now being able to learn about them and then just talk to the athletes, I definitely know that, my purpose is to serve and to just help wherever I can.
I love the compassionate heart. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, you're watching the Coach Scott Field Show, and just lucky to sit here and have this time to have this conversation and connection with Coach Marci Grayer here, head coach at Salt Lake Community College. Let's talk about Salt Lake Community College. You
Yeah.
guys have phenomenal facilities. I mean, the G League team, played there. They practiced there. You have multiple pro teams that will come in to your facilities. Talk about those facilities and how it's a plus for you in the recruiting world when you look at other facilities that other institutions don't have that are as nice as yours.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, that's why I said it's hard, it would be hard to leave here, because we do have facilities as if we were a Division I school. Just our arena in general. And then when the Stars were here, the G League
Yep.
team, obviously we got all the stuff that the Jazz had, because they had to do the same thing. So it's like we got a nice new system because of them, which was
That's
which
right.
was nice. But since then, they have left and they're doing their own
Yep.
at the Franklin Covey, I think now, just to have their own facilities. They don't have to worry about sharing the training rooms and stuff. But our facilities definitely, when you go to like other JUCOs that aren't necessarily as blessed, even our girls, like now they'll walk into schools and be like, oh wow. And it's like, yeah, like you didn't put in the sweat and tears for this, but you get this, right? But you have to
Uh,
be
think about. I mean, your locker rooms are
oh yeah.
first class. Your training and workout facilities, for weights are there. You've got
Mhm.
great academic support. I mean, there's a lot of great factors. You live in an NBA town, which is phenomenal, especially with the NBA All Star game coming in. So to me, there's a lot of pluses. I mean, for travel for players coming in and out, you've got the international airport right there. I think of all the positive assets that you're able to sell that are strengths for you, especially recruiting international when it's such a competitive market out there.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think there's only two real downfalls that we run into. One is, we don't have on-campus living. And it's really just because Salt Lake Community College is known as a commuter college.
That's right.
We have over 61,000 students, which is just wild when you like no other JUCO has those numbers. We have 10 campuses. We're building another one in Harriman, so that's going to put us at 11. So we've always, we've been known as a commuter college. So as far as us having dorms, that really has never really been spoke about until more so recently. But that's the downfall that because we have some kids that want to live the college experience, they want to live on campus, they want to get a meal card. And we don't even have a meal card. We do have a CAF, but it's just not a meal card because we don't have the need for it. So that's one thing that that we hear about from like recruiting things that we hear from kids. Another thing that is since we are in the city, we do have the NBA teams, we do have University of Utah, BYU, those football games, all those things that we don't have as big as a fan base because we are, the junior college here. And a lot of times with how many students we have, they don't really even know that we have athletics because it's all on one campus. So just getting the word out more that we have athletics and to come out and support. But we don't have like that hometown feel of that crowd. So those would probably be the only downfalls that we have, if you're an athlete looking to come here. But other than that, it's on not like on top as far as our facilities and then even just our budgets. We've been very blessed with that and just scholarships. So it's been nice for sure.
And to see that, I guess I see it a different way. I kind of
Mhm.
twist it as, you know what, you have a social life, you have diversity, with the different colleges and universities that are around. There's things that you can go and do, but yet you don't have the distractions where you can come here, focus on your education, and you can focus on developing as a player to get to that Division I level, which is, most of their aspirations. So to
Mhm.
me, I see those things not as deterrents, but yet as positive factors to say, hey, you can have the best of both worlds. You can grow individually and as an athlete, and yet, kind of leave the nest and spread your wings. So to me, I see those as positives. But now that you're in the administrative world, if there were things that you could do to help the college grow in a positive way, are those two things that you would focus on to have, on campus housing for them, or do the you get the feedback that they like living in an apartment and kind of sharing and then kind of having their meals and doing their thing?
Yeah, no, I think I think the athletes would love to be more on campus. I think it just brings more of they're just together more, you know. I think like right now, we have two houses that the girls live in. It's about like 5 minutes from here. And then the volleyball team has a house. Men's basketball, they rent out a house, and I think they have some apartments. So the apartment living, obviously, that gets pretty expensive. So I know that as athletes, they would love to just make more of a community type feel by being on campus. But then when I take off my coach's hat and I put on my administrative hat, I kind of understand why we don't have, on campus living, because right now, Salt Lake Community College does great with number wise as being a commuter college,
Yeah.
so putting in dorms, I think would bring some, that do want to maybe move out of mom and dad's house when they're being a commuter student. It could grab some, but I just don't know if it would grab enough for the money that it would take to run them, if
There
that
you
makes
go.
sense.
I
From the
know
administrative side of things.
that's full transparency right there, and I can appreciate that. I just I'm enjoying this conversation because we're letting the world get to know who you are and what
Yeah.
you're about. When you're off the court and you're out in the community, what are things that you see that you're so proud of at Salt Lake Community College?
Oh my gosh. Well, with me being a student here, the one thing that I did love about this college is the diversity, the different walks of life. I had young kids in my class, and even now, like you'll get like 16-year-olds in the college class, and like they're done with high school. And I'm like, you need to go live your go have fun, while you can.
Yeah.
But then at times I'm like, wow, like I wish I would have got done early, But then like looking back, high school years was the fun years. But so you get kids like that, or you get single parents, or you get older, that took time off and now they're coming back. And so they're older and wiser. You hear different stories. When you're in the classrooms, our classrooms are like maybe 1 to 20, 1 to 25. So we have small classrooms. You get to meet, different people and come from different backgrounds and different areas, going through different struggles, going to different high schools, needing different things. And, Slick, they have, it's called the pantry. So they help, people in need of food, which I think is huge. I just feel like everything the school represents as far as community and helping the community, the diversity, inclusivity, all that stuff it stands for, I'm just big, big, big on, which is why it
Love it.
allows me to just be so happy where I'm at.
Yeah, see, and I love that. Thanks, Coach. I it, and I know you're very humble. There's a lot of humility even in your tone, and this will be hard for you to talk about. But let's start talking about let's pat you on the back here. Share some of the successes that you're so proud of. Share some of the success stories of maybe giving us an example of an international student who came from just poverty, but yet has utilized her skill set and has got on to the Division 1 level. So share some of those stories with our viewers.
Yeah, gosh.
I
Well,
know there's a bunch of them, so it's hard to. It's like being a mom. Which one's your favorite? Well, they're all my favorites. So.
yeah, no, probably the biggest stories I have right now, at least the ones that have been most heartfelt, have been some of my internationals and what they've come from. Like one of my players right now, she played on a torn ACL for multiple years. And I had no idea, but it just kept swelling up in practice. It'd keep hurting her. But we'd keep checking it out. Our trainers would check it out. They're like, oh, it seems the same as the other knee. Like it doesn't seem off at all. And so but then the second year, same stuff was happening. I was like, okay, there's something going on. Let's just try to get you an MRI or something. So we did, and then we found out that it's been torn for a while. But again, she didn't have the money back home to really get seen. And just to know that she's been playing on it, and I couldn't even imagine. And not even just playing, but like killing it, like as far as her stats, her ability to get up and down, just her drive, and be able to do that
Wow.
with the torn ACL. Because at the end of the day, this means more, this life here, right? This chance, this opportunity she got here, and just her drive to get back into it. And then when I took her also, because she came here to go to a prep school in Arizona, her and the teammate at the time, I brought both of them. And the first time they got their stipend money, it was only, we only give like 230, 250 at the time a month. And, we went to the bank because we set them up with bank accounts. We try to get them all, and they pay their own rents, all that stuff. So we're setting them up with a bank account, but their first check, they could cash it. And I'm like, what do you guys want? Do you guys want like 20s? Do you guys want hundreds? And then they looked at each other and they were like 20s. And so as soon as the lady brought out the 20s, they just both started bawling. And they were
Wow.
just talking about how they're going to send so much back to their family. Like they're staying back home. They couldn't even buy milk. Like their family can't even afford milk. And that's just so touching for me that it's like, wow, like it puts life in a whole different perspective, you know, knowing that you can not only change their life, but you can help change, you know, their families. And then for me, thinking that like your stipend's super low and you're already thinking that you're going to send more than half home. So then you're really not living off of anything here. But then they always say, well, we didn't have anything back home. So we're fine. We're doing even better, which I'm like, wow, you know, and then we get me I'm like, no, I need more. Give me more. You know, so that definitely puts everything in perspective for me that it means more, you know, and so that was huge for sure.
Love hearing that, because that does put it in perspective that, you know, we kind of take for granted what's around us, right?
Mhm.
And yet we sometimes it takes an eye-opening experience like that to be like, oh my gosh, there are people out there who are struggling and just so happy for this opportunity that that 20 was like 10 million to them.
Exactly.
So it's just it's great to hear that. How about a story of a local kid who's worked really hard and has done well and maybe went off to sign at a 4-year school, maybe not even a Division 1, but someone who that you saw, you know, potential in and now is flourishing, doing great things.
Yeah, no, I think well, one thing too, when I'm recruiting, the thing that I pride our program on the most is our ability to get kids out, right? To get kids to the 4 year. So at the end of the day, the main goal is to get your degree paid for and to get you
Right.
graduated, to get you a degree and to get you where you want to go in life. So with what we've done, you know, right now we're about a 95% transfer rate as far as our athletes. And
Wow.
yeah, and the other five is just either, you know, they got injured or they just feel like their body just can't take it anymore, or maybe they just didn't want to go down that route anymore. Some are serving missions and just decided they weren't going to take that path. But that's been one thing that Salt Lake has done over and over. And the biggest thing that I think we pride ourselves on is where we've placed kids. But one story that I know for sure that I love talking about is about Mercedes Riggs, and she's a local. She was actually a walk-on at Salt Lake. When I got here, she was a sophomore. And that summer, and going to that like first preseason, I remember saying, Coach, like, who's that? Like, you know, she could be our point guard because she's like, I don't have a returning point guard. So I'm like, who's that? I actually really like her. And she's like, oh, you know, she's here last year. She didn't play. We'll just have to see where she's at. And she just completely killed it. Hard-nosed kid, super hardworking, great leader, great in the classroom. And she was the first ever JUCO transfer to Duke University.
Wow.
So she got a full ride scholarship there. And she knew, you know, that it wasn't going to be her role to get big minutes. But that coach at the time just knew that we needed a leader like that and someone that works that hard. And she, you know, wanted to go get a degree from there. So she got her degree paid from there. The coach talked extremely highly about her, just her character and just how hard nosed she is. And that's one of my biggest success stories that I tell the girls, to try to show them that it's not really like I can't go do that for you, right? Like I can try to get the stage for you. The school does the stage for you, just of kids that have been placed. Those colleges will still call, but it's more so of what the work ethic you put into it. And so from going from playing no minutes and being a walk-on to all of a sudden playing 40 minutes a game and then going to Duke University to play, like that just shows it's all about your work ethic and how bad you want it. Not really so much of, you know, we can just give you the pieces, but it's about you putting it together.
Oh,
And I say that to every recruiting visit.
giving them the opportunity, giving them the platform,
Yeah.
allowing them to grow. And here you are holding them accountable and pushing them. And like you say, sometimes giving that tough love. They're
Mhm.
going to look back at that 15, 20 years from now with that degree from Duke and doing wonderful things there, which is a wonderful law school. You just think that's why we do what we do. That's why
Exactly.
we are coaches. That it's wonderful to see someone, you know, grow like that. That's a
Yeah.
great story. Great story. You know, we've got about 4 or 5 more minutes here, Coach. What advice? Because I hear you talk high character a lot, and you are a high character person. And you're going to surround yourself with people like that. I can see that about you. But when you're out recruiting a student athlete, what are you looking for?
So the first thing as I'm recruiting them is, well, one, if I get sent film or if I go and watch them, I like to watch how they interact, you know, with their team. Do they run to places or do they walk to places? You know, when they make a mistake, do they hang their head or are they like, okay, we're fine, we're good to go? When they're walking out the court and when they made a mistake, do they high five their teammate or do they slap their hand like want to give attitude? You know, like Do they look at their coach in the eye? Things like that. That's what I truly love to watch. And a lot of times, especially now, people will send highlight films. And the first thing I ask for is a full game film, because
That's right.
during that time, I'm watching those small things to see if I want you in my program. I think anyone can be great in a highlight. And there's some people that have great skills, some people have great skills, but then it's like you see that little bit of attitude. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to work with that. But then there's some, when I talk to that coach and they're like, they actually are a great kid, they just need a chance. Then, it kind of makes me actually want to try and tap into that, right? To see if I can change that a little bit, the thought process. But at least when I'm thinking of my kids, it's those kids that are just great teammates, hard-nosed, that understand like, okay, I did mess up, but I'm gonna take ownership of my mess up, and I might point and be like, that's my bad, I'll get it next time. But not one that's gonna just hang my head or make it all about me, 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 me. How do they react when things aren't going their way? That's what I really like to look for.
So yeah, and again, I think those are character things, and that body language that you speak about screams. Trust me, I it used to drive me crazy to see someone with poor body language or someone who would get so down, because it's like, move on to the next play. Don't let one mistake turn into two. And that body language can turn into, I hate to use the word cancer in a locker room, but it truly does. So I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear you speak on that. Just a couple minutes here. What last words would you want the viewers and people of the Coach Scott Field show to know about Coach Grayer and what you stand for?
Oh my gosh.
We're going deep here. We're going deep.
Right. I think, well, a lot of it I just spoke on a lot, to love differences, to understand we're all one. And we all have certain similarities, we all have differences, but embrace each other's differences. And just come together, I think, and cheer for one another,
That's right.
be there for one another. Even if I don't fully agree with you, I'm still gonna be there for you, but still be able to vocalize and also say, like, if I don't agree and this is why, and have healthy conversations to maybe help others see different points of view. But biggest thing is that I love to give love, right? And sometimes it is tough love. I am pretty like this, so don't think it's all roses. Like,
Don't get
like
it twisted.
yeah, I'm pretty hard nosed, but at the end of the day, it's all love, with it. And that's, I guess, just the biggest thing I want people to understand is that I am tough. I'm definitely tough. I'm not a walkover by any means, but I do, everything within me is driven by embodying love within one another.
Love that. That's powerful. It's inspiring. It's empowering. And I truly hope that, a lot of people will share this content, because I really feel you deserve your flowers. I feel more people need to know about who you are, what you stand for. And to me, you are an icon and a pillar in our community. Now, it doesn't get a lot of visibility or awareness, but that's why I wanted to have this platform to showcase a pillar like yourself, because you are a good person. You do care about each other. You want a sense of community. You want that inclusion, and you want to provide opportunity for others because you've been blessed with that opportunity. And I see you glow, girl. Trust me. I'm
Thank you
I'm
so
so
much.
proud. I'm so proud of you. And if there's anything we can ever do to help, but I'm just glad that hopefully people will see this content, share this content, but yet be inspired by this content, and maybe take something from what we've shared today to put a tool in their toolbox to make them a better version of themselves.
Oh, for sure. No, I would love that. But thank you so, so much for this platform. I don't get on and talk on many things, and I'm so happy you got me to do it. And I feel very, very special and honored for sure. So thank you so much for allowing me to kind of tell my story a little bit.
Oh, listen, we're honored and humbled to have you. It's guests like yourself that bring success to this show, because it's like people like, wow, I can be just like Coach Marci, and and so hopefully, us igniting, another candle is going to just help, illuminate the world here, because to me, you're one of the best. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, this is Coach Marci Grayer, head coach of Salt Lake Community College women's program. She is outstanding. She is a star on the rise. There is no ceiling. Proud of you, girl. Keep doing what you're doing. Give that little baby a hug from us, and hope to cross paths with you real soon.
Yes, we will. Thank you so, so much. And bye, everybody.
God bless. Ladies and gentlemen, again, it's It's the Coach Scott Field Show. Stay tuned for another episode, but I'm going to tell you what, this is going to be a tough one to beat. We have NBA Hall of Famers and NBA All-Stars on here, but this one right here, all heart, all heart. God bless.
Thank you. Bye.